Welcome to Copytraders Club, where you can learn how to make more money copy trading. I'm Gavin McCauley, my name and username on eToro. You can continue the conversation on Discord and Facebook. Today we're talking to a very interesting PI with an even more interesting website. Here we go. Episode 20 of Copytraders Club, and before we get into it, I'd like to welcome all the new listeners who've come to us from the recent JMilazzo episode. Welcome to the club. We are 20 episodes in, which isn't much, but you can get an idea of what to expect by going back over those episodes. There are conversations with PIs, Samosa King, Robert Merck, Elite Vol, Logic Fool, Lizzie Apukaya, MJ Lux, and JMilazzo. There are also chats with Copytraders Victor Zhang, Brian G, and Stephen Steeles. They all have YouTube channels too, and are therefore eToro content creators. And on that front, we feature the channels Moth Copy Trading, made by Stephen Steeles, and Felix Falix, made by the coroner of copy trading, Andrew Haddon. We also have the first one-on-one with eToro Direct, in the form of Sam Rudnick, the head of the PI program. Future chats with eToro insiders are on the cards. There's also a number of solo episodes where I consider my portfolio performance, any changes, and various other odds and ends. So it's quite a varied picture, and I intend to continue offering a range of guests, bringing perspectives from all angles. So you can pick and choose what you fancy from this smorgasbord of content. This episode's guest has a foot in a couple of camps. He's a long-term eToro user who is in fact a PI, but it is more for his eToro-focused website that he makes for a very interesting guest. He's the man behind the website StockUpWithJoe, Joseph James Milazzo. He's had a long journey to the clubhouse, all the way from Australia. Let's hope he got some sleep on the plane. Joe, hello. Welcome to Copytraders Club.
Fantastic to be part of it.
Well, it's great to have you here, our first Antipodean guest. First of many, I hope. All right, so a series of quickfire questions must be answered before we can proceed to the Copytraders Lounge. Are you ready for those?
Of course.
Username on eToro?
JMilazzo.
Date you joined eToro?
July 2016.
Year of birth?
1986.
Place of residence?
Canberra, Australia.
Profession?
Senior IT consultant.
Briefly state what you aim to achieve on eToro.
To learn, to teach, and to trade in a social environment.
Name one of your investing heroes.
Mackenzie Bezos. Bit of a tongue-in-cheek.
Name one of your favourite investing books.
The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by John Bogle.
That completes the formalities. Let's proceed into our VIP section here at the clubhouse. The splendid Copytraders Lounge awaits you. Joseph James Milazzo, aka JMilazzo, are you ready for this magical transition?
Let's rock and roll.
Here we are now, Joe, in the Copytraders Lounge. You can just sit back and relax. Before we get into it, normally I don't go back over responses to the quickfire questions, but name one of your investing heroes. Would you like to explain your response?
There's a picture going around on the internet just of the ultimate investor where Mackenzie invested in Jeff at a very early age of the Amazon journey and then hold all the way through until it reached near its peak stock price and then divorced. and she ended up walking away with 60 odd billion plus dollars. So it's a tongue-in-cheek comment of not a normally thought of investor in the modern world.
Well, we like these free thinkers. That's a very good thought. Just find yourself a wealthy young woman or man and stick with them until they reach their peak. All right. So, Joe, you say you're based in Australia, but you're an Aussie, right?
Yes, I'm Australian.
Of Italian descent.
Yeah, I'm actually half Italian, half English.
And you live in Canberra.
Yes, our nation's capital.
Yeah, I've been to Canberra. It was an interesting place. The thing that struck me about Canberra is it's built for a far bigger population than it ever managed to attract. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So you've got these big highways and parks, and there's never any traffic jams. There's cycle lanes everywhere and under big road. You can cycle the whole way around Canberra without ever crossing traffic and things like that, because they thought there were going to be millions of people in this big capital city.
Yes, because they looked at it sort of between halfway of Sydney and Melbourne, and they thought there was going to be a significant population there. Still significant in terms of about 300,000-400,000 people, but it's just a well-planned city. So as you said, you can get from one end to the other in less than 30 minutes. And I think I've been stuck in traffic like 4 times since living here. So it's quite a nice place to be.
Now, eToro doesn't appear to be very big in Australia, to me at least. Is that correct? Why do you think that is?
I think it is correct. So I think when I joined 5 odd years ago, there was probably maybe 2,000 people in Australia that were on eToro. I think one of the reasons is it's very hard and expensive for Australians to trade stocks internationally. For what we call the big 4 banks here, who do the most of the brokerage in Australia, for Australian stocks, there's $20 brokerage fee, and you have to buy in $500 lots the first time you buy it. So not a lot of people want to trade Australian stocks, let alone international stocks, which can have up to a $60 brokerage fee. So when there's a company that comes along that offers low fees and exposure to US and UK and Hong Kong stocks, it just seemed like a no-brainer. They have been gaining popularity over the years. They've set up an office here, and they've got quite a number of PIs now. They're even sponsoring like the national rugby union team and some of the local tournaments. So they're starting to get their name out there and sort of get their name in the local newspapers and advertisements. So it's slowly but surely it's growing.
Speaking of Australia, I like to watch YouTube channels about investing. And in fact, that's kind of how I came to eToro, was through meeting someone in the comment section of a YouTube channel who then makes his own videos, and it turns out he's on eToro, and that's what brought me there. There's a couple of Aussie channels that I am familiar with, and I've reached out to them or left comments with them, engaged with them, and asked them, why are they not on eToro? Or can you send me a link to your public profile on eToro? Thanks for all this wonderful information on investing. You guys really seem to know what you're talking about. Can I see your public profile? And the answer, if you get one, is no.
No.
One guy who I like, he's quite a new channel. He's a hardcore value investor, old school, Buffett Munger fan.
Yeah.
Investing with Frank. He made a point that I've asked a few people about since. He says he feels eToro encourages short-term behavior, and that's not what he's about, and he doesn't want that pressure negatively influencing his behavior, his thought processes. And the others are, let me think, the Young Investors podcast. Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that,
yeah,
yes.
There's a couple of guys, Hamish Hodder and his buddy. They're quite like a lot of other YouTube investing channels. They sell courses and things like that. And my point that I make to them is, rather than trying to leverage your viewers If you had an eToro channel, they could copy you. You could strut your stuff on eToro and they could make money along with you. Wouldn't that be a nice way of going about things? They didn't respond, so I don't know what their response would be. But I imagine a lot of guys in their position sort of might not like the disruption that eToro represents.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are addicted to their affiliate compensation, where they don't have to really do anything or produce real results, and they can just point someone to a link and say, sign up here, and they get a kickback from that. So yeah, it's always funny seeing some of these people, and some of them are really good, and some of them have justification that they don't really want to be on any sort of social trading platform. But a lot of them do get called out for what they are in terms of what they're actually selling, and trying to expose some of the newer investors to these types of markets. So it is interesting. And so not everyone's like that. You do get some good, you get some bad. So it's just trying to filter out the bad from the good.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the future holds for investing channels on YouTube. I think the more things like eToro grow, the more that filter is going to be applied, and the bad won't thrive, and the good, who, as you say, for whatever reasons, don't want to go down this road, they will continue to do well.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a website, StockUpWithJoe.com, and you're a PI.
Yes.
However, you're here more for the former than the latter. As you said yourself, you're a better writer than you are a trader. Now, I wouldn't dream of insulting you by agreeing, so I'll just take your word on that. So we're going to mostly discuss your website and how it covers various aspects of copy trading. But we're not going to ignore the fact that you're a PI. So describe Stock Up with Joe. What is it and why is it?
So I started Stock Up with Joe probably at the tail end of 2017 because I got featured by eToro as an up-and-coming PI, and I went from 5 copiers to about 150, 200 plus in a space of 24 hours. So with that growth came a lot of questions, a lot of people asking this and that. So I was getting sick of responding to every single one of them. So I thought, all right, I'll start a blog, put up some of these commonly asked questions, put up things about my portfolio, what I'm doing with it, what I'm thinking, look at some of the stocks that I would like to trade in. And yeah, it started growing from there. So at the moment, it is sort of a niche around eToro, some of the tips and tricks and some of the stocks available on it, but it also has expanded a little bit into some of the investing components and also some of the finance articles as well.
Okay. And I think I came across you. How did I come across you? Do you know how I came across you? Did you?
Possibly millions of followers.
I was going to say I came across you through Andrew Haddon, but I'm not sure if that's true.
Could be. I've known Andrew for a while now because we were moderating together on a Facebook group.
He did mention that, and he says he misses your moderation.
Yeah.
And to say hello from him.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, let's have a question from the art of people. Would you like to pick a number between 1 and 10?
Number 6, please.
What's one thing you would like to be doing or to have 5 years from now?
My health and with my family.
Can't argue with that. So StockUpWithJoe.com, as you say, it's very eToro focused. Loads of great eToro content. Let me list a few of the categories. Everything you need to know about eToro Copytrader, the best eToro YouTube channels, eToro Money, eToro's new debit card coming soon, eToro Trader Reviews, debunking the eToro scam myth, eToro Australia, Grab the Bull by the Horns, and eToro Ideas Lab, future-proofing the platform for new traders. So that's just a sample of the content that the visitor can expect on your site. So let's talk about some of these. There's loads of good stuff. I really enjoyed researching this chat. You're a mine of information, but I am buttering you up for a reason. First of all, we need to address what I see as the elephant in the room about your site.
Yeah.
Now, that is the use of the term copy trader.
Yes.
Now, this is Copytraders Club, so I'm keen to nail down a definition. So do you know where I'm going with this?
I'm excited to find out.
Well, simple question. What is a copy trader? I would say I am a copy trader, one who copy trades. I copy the trades of popular investors. There are A, copy traders, and B, popular investors, and never the twain shall meet. So the listener may be wondering why I'm spelling this out. The reason is that the term copy trader is used on your site often to refer to PIs.
Yes.
The competition is described as eToro Top Copy Traders competition. Who is the best eToro trader? Using my Copytrader filter system, I decided to pick 5 copy traders each month. And there's the names then follow: Mariano Pardo, Ruby, MZA, etc. Now, I understand the importance of keywords for search engine optimization. And it doesn't take a genius to work out what target keywords are on some of these pages. But let's talk about that. You're not the only person who sometimes uses the word copy trader to refer to PIs.
No.
Am I wrong? Are you wrong? Are the terms insufficiently clear at this stage of eToro's life?
I think they're interchangeable because when someone does search for a trader to copy, and as you said, it's the SEO of it, the copy trader is going to come up as a trader to copy as well. So people who start digging into sort of what keywords to use can be using it interchangeably, in my opinion. So I do realize the irony of calling it the copy trader competition when I'm focusing on the traders themselves and not copy traders. But yeah, I think I started that particular page 2 years ago now. I think I've been following. So the definition wasn't as set as it is today.
Okay. Do you think the definition is set today? Because in a very recent interview, I asked a PI what was their profession, and they replied, I'm a professional copy trader on eToro. And I had to say, hold on a second, cut. Can you change that and say you're a popular investor? Because, just for clarity. So you're not alone.
No. And not many people will search for who's the best popular investor.
Yeah, it's important from a search engine optimization point of view, sure.
Yeah.
But just to reassure the listener, you're a copy trader. This is a club for copy traders.
Yes.
We copy PIs.
Yes.
As far as I'm concerned, that's couldn't be clearer.
No. Crystal.
Well, ignoring this minor issue about the term copy trader, as I say, there's tons of good stuff on your site. So I've listed a few sections for us to discuss, just generally. Debunking eToro myths. Is it a scam? Tell me about that section.
So this page came about, or this post came about, mainly because I was sick of hearing a lot of people who just jumped into eToro without doing their due diligence or just leveraging themselves by times 50 or times 100. And then when their stop loss got hit, they're like, oh, they took my money. I didn't know what a stop loss was and blah, blah, blah. So there's only been very few occurrences in the 5-6 years that I've been on there where there could be a legitimate case where it would require investigating. I remember, I think it was about 2-3 years ago, where there was a glitch and everyone's EOS trades just got sold. And eToro were like, okay, my bad. We'll compensate you plus some extra, and you have all your original trades reopened. But they were reopened at a lower rate, but you were compensated what the difference was. Yeah, I just find that 9 out of 10 people just don't do the proper research, and they're the squeaky wheel. So I think eToro has about 20 odd million users at the moment, and even if 1% of them have think eToro is a scam, that's good 200,000 people, and they're the ones who think they're hard done by, and they're going to be shouting the loudest. So they're going to be on every forum saying this and that, saying bad things. Yeah, you can just go onto Twitter, you can go onto Reddit, any of the social media platforms. You'll easily find dozens of posts about people calling eToro a scam. But when you actually press them about it, they don't actually have a proper answer for it. The poster, that is.
It's also true on YouTube. There's an increasing number of videos popping up on YouTube. And as you say, the ones that I've seen are most easily explained by saying, I think what happened is your stop loss was hit and you had no idea there was such a thing or where it was set, and you just don't understand the very basics of the system.
Yeah.
And instead of humbly acknowledging your own ignorance, they make a video accusing eToro of taking their money, and it gets lots of hits on YouTube. In fact, so much so that if you put the word scam in your title or your thumbnail, you're guaranteed to get a whole bunch of hits. And I've even seen one very pro eToro channel, relatively new. I thought, oh, here we go again. Here's another YouTube video about eToro being a scam. And the whole video is positive and it's definitely not a scam. But yet he still felt like that was the best way to, create something clickbaity. So I don't think it's going to stop.
No, one of the more common ones I see is when people sell or short a stock and they think they bought it. So when it's not going the way that they wanted and they're losing money, they're like, I don't understand. It's gone up 10% today, but I'm down 10%. It's a scam. It's always interesting to explain. And I had to do a post on this, the difference between selling a stock and closing it and shorting a stock, just the different terminology that eToro uses that people need to familiarize themselves with.
Well, all the more need, therefore, to have a system like copy trading. So you can just get behind people who do know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And moving on to copy trading, here's another section. You've got an area of your site which is called eToro Copytrader Walkthrough.
Yes.
And this is the kind of thing that eToro should be doing, as I've made the point several times on this podcast. There should be a series of introductory videos taking you by the hand. And
agree.
The first question you ask is, what kind of copy trader are you? A key question that nobody, I think, asks themselves before they start. What are you getting at there?
For me, it's doing your research, doing your due diligence. So are you just going to be someone who invests in one person and just chuck all your money at that person and walk away for 12 months and check it in a year? Or are you actively seeking someone who invests in short terms or volatile stocks or crypto? So you need to understand why you want to copy person A, B, or C and how that aligns to your trading strategy in terms of your goals 1 year down the track, 2 years down the track, 10 years down the track. Because you could just go onto eToro, look at the most copied person and click copy and walk away. But if that doesn't suit what your copy trading style is going to be, you're probably going to be disappointed with the results.
Second question you ask in this section is, what level of risk is acceptable to you? Another key question.
So some people can afford to lose 90% of their portfolio. Some people who might only have a small amount to invest want to make sure that that's not going to be removed at the next drop. the next market downturn. The level of risk is has always been a touchy subject because I don't think anyone truly understands how it works. I don't think it's, in my opinion, been thoroughly explained or sort of correlates to what's actually a true representation of the person's or the trader's portfolio. So it can be taken with a grain of salt. It's probably not the only indicator you should use when you're looking at a copy trader.
Definitely. And thank you for not saying it should be taken with a great big bag of salt. Some people say that when they want to make that point. Was the expression is take it with a pinch of salt. In other words, imagine someone's cooking a big pot of stew and the recipe says add a pinch of salt. What effect is that pinch of salt going to have to the stew? None. A pinch of salt is so small, it's not going to make any difference. So take it with a pinch of salt means don't let it affect your thinking too much. People try and reinforce that point by saying take it with a great big bag of salt, which of course would have the opposite effect. But we always like to digress into these linguistic labyrinths. Next question, copy open trades or not?
So copy open trades or not does depend on several factors. How much money you're allocating, what the actual portfolio looks like for the PI. So they could be a long-term trader where they only might open one trade a year. I think probably the best way to find your answer is to ask the PI themselves, and they'll be able to give you a straightforward answer. Yes, I recommend copying all trades now or not. So it does depend on several factors as well. So what the market is doing at the moment. Do you think that you're going to continue to add funds to this copy trader, to this PI down the line? So unfortunately, there's not a straightforward answer, and that it does depend on the copy trader themselves, what they would like to do moving forward and sort of what the current environment's like.
Okay. And you also do YouTube videos as well as your site, although none of them are very recent, it has to be said.
No.
One is called Only Copy Certain eToro Copy Trades.
Yes.
Why would someone not want to copy everything the PI is doing?
It could come down to personal preference. It might also be that they don't want to be exposed to certain markets. So if they, just using Felix as an example, Felix had all his particular stocks, but you didn't like Games Workshop, for example, you can remove that manually. It's not suitable for everyone, but it's just one of those things that if you're aware of it, you can use it down the line. You don't have to, but it is just a personal preference.
Yes, I imagine that copy traders comprise people of all sorts of levels of investing in terms of knowledge and competence. Many might copy trade because they don't really know anything about investing and don't particularly want to, which is fair enough, if you ask me.
Yes.
Others might know a fair bit. They might invest directly too and have informed opinions about specific stocks or investments and therefore have reasons for removing specific positions from a copy. But it could be for other reasons, maybe for reasons of principle. Like I did that very recently, in fact. One of my PIs is invested in Lockheed Martin, and that's not a company I want to be invested in. I don't want to will into existence the kind of events that would boost the performance of the world's largest manufacturer of weapons of war. And generally, I think PI should be left alone to do their thing, and you either decide to get behind them or you don't. So I haven't questioned it. And I'm not really a big fan of copiers questioning everything a PI does, to be honest. I think it gets a bit much. But, really as copy traders, we are responsible for our own portfolios. And we have the power to exit individual positions, as you're talking about here, if we choose to.
Yeah. And no one is forcing you to copy a certain PI. It's a personal choice.
Or even elements within what that PI is invested in.
Correct.
So do I want to be invested in Lockheed Martin? No. Do I want to continue copying this PI? Yes. And being slightly out of sync with the PI, as I will be now, I think is a small price to pay compared to feeling compromised emotions when watching the death and anguish of poor people in resource-rich countries. Anyway, the point is, we are each of us in control of what we're invested in. And
Yes.
that's an important thing for people to remember. You're not outsourcing responsibility entirely. You're responsible in every sense for your own portfolio.
And I've seen people do it because they've looked at a certain PI that they're about to start copying, and they see that they've gone up 250% on a particular stock. And so if they started copying them now, they'll start at 0%. And just for example, if that stock moved minus 20% in one day, the PI could go, okay, I've hit my stop loss. I'm done. I can close it. So they're down 230% for that stock. Fantastic result. But for the copier, they're on minus 20%.
Hope you're enjoying today's show. I'm sure you've subscribed already. If you are a successful copy trader, happy to share what you've learned, there's no need to have a public profile. Get in touch. The bigger the club, the better for you. So tell people on eToro about this show. Ask your PIs to come on. That way you will get to know them better. We build this club together. One significant section of your website is the eToro Copytrader Filters.
Yes.
There's a section where you say, these are my filters I would choose if I was to copy someone. And there's an expanded section with also your reasons against that list. Do you want to run down that list?
Yes. So obviously when you go into eToro and you are looking at certain traders to copy, any potential PIs or any just normal traders as well, you're presented with a list of filters. So probably about 2 years ago, I started diving into these filters and having a look at if I was to copy someone at that time, what would I look at and what would these particular filters be? This is purely based on my own personal opinion, so it doesn't always ring true with everyone else, but I'm happy to sort of dive into those. So the first one is the time period. So the trader should have been trading on eToro for at least 12 months. The next one's around the status. Not a big one, but it's more of a peace of mind if the trader is verified by eToro. So they either have that little green tick, or if they're a PI, cadet, the blue, red, green, black stars.
I mean, not being verified is what? You've just signed up for an account, but you haven't provided all the documentation necessary?
Yeah.
Why would you copy someone who's unverified?
It's just lack of knowledge to some people. They're not very sure what it actually means in terms of that green tick. They might see someone who's been on eToro and not verified, but they've made 1,000% gains because they've leveraged everything for their trades. Like, I'll try and copy that person.
That's also the kind of person who runs into trouble trying to get money out of eToro because they're unverified. Yes. And then they make a video on YouTube saying it's a scam. Okay, carry on.
The country. So location shouldn't matter. Some countries have an advantage compared to others. Just for example, in Australia, the market opens at 11:30 at night and closes at 6:30 or 6 a.m. in the morning. So for 99% of it, I'm asleep. But that's also good because I'm not awake to deal with the roller coaster of emotions that happens with trading. So I'm sleeping during most crashes and most rises as well. So as long as I have faith in my stop losses and take profits, then I shouldn't have an issue sleeping through the trading day. Name and picture. I like the name and picture because it humanizes the person. Makes you feel like you're actually talking to a human instead of just sort of a robot or someone hiding behind a private profile. the number of copiers. I don't think the number of copiers should matter. When I find some people I've found that had one or two, and they've been some of my best performers. In the same breath, the copiers change because people stop copying for a myriad of reasons. It could be to take cash out. It could be to reinvest somewhere else. So without actually knowing why people have left that particular PI or that trader, the number of copies change shouldn't matter that much. For me, you should expect a greater than a 10% return over sort of a rolling 12-month period. So that's one of the things is with copy trading is that you need to give it time. It's not an overnight success. And I do highlight the benefits of copying for a long time in the trading competition we're talking about. There's some of these people I've been copying for 2 years, and they're sitting at about 100+% over those 2 years.
Excellent. Well, profitable years are always nice. Profitable months is also something, surprisingly, that you consider to be of importance.
Yeah, so I chose over 50% just to show so they're winning most of their months in training. They should be winning most of their months, but then you also have to look at how much they're winning by, or what's their profit per month as well.
And profitable trades is number 10.
Yeah, so this one shouldn't matter, in my opinion, because the results can be skewed without actually knowing what was allocated to each trade. It's difficult to use that statistic as a reason to copy someone.
Sure.
The risk score, so 1 to 6, that's a normal for a popular investor. Daily drawdown 5%. So 5% in 1 day is a pretty significant drop.
Weekly drawdown less than 10%?
Yeah, so very similar to the daily drawdown. So in a given week, you'd hope that your PI doesn't lose more than 10% of their portfolio.
And crypto?
It's just a personal preference of mine to reduce the exposure to crypto.
And the final point is average trade size.
Yeah, so around the average trade size. So this is not saying that a particular investment, say Amazon, can be more than 4 or 5%. It's when they're investing 4 or 5% per trade in a particular thing. For me, this is about reducing risk.
Okay, so that's quite a long and comprehensive list of filters that you would use when looking for a PI. And as we said before, you are a PI.
Yes.
So the big question is, would you make it through your filters?
Yes and no. It does depend on where you are in that PI's journey. Would I copy myself in my current situation? I put myself on a watch list.
Okay, well, let's explore that a little bit more, because pretty much all the PIs that are likely to want to come on to this podcast are ones that are doing pretty well. They're at a good point in their journeys and they think they can attract more copiers. But for every PI like that, there's many more out there who are frustrated with their performance and maybe less than stellar results.
Yes.
Would you describe your results as less than stellar currently? You've had some good results in the past and some not so good results.
So at the moment, I don't think I'm beating the benchmark, if I'm being honest. But if I look at my portfolio, what it's going to be in 2 years, 3 years' time, 5 years down the track, I know that the research that I've done and the stocks that I've picked in my current portfolio, I would be happy to close my eToro account today and come back in 1 year and not have a worry.
Okay, given that confidence, then is it frustrating to not be building your copier numbers and AUM?
Not really. I'm not really doing it to amass a huge following. I am doing it partly from a learning experience, and I do enjoy it. One of the things about being a PI is it means that you don't only trade with your copiers in mind, because every PI has skin in the game. We've got our own money in the game. When you compare that to some of the hedge fund managers, they're using other people's money. For most PIs, you can't let your copiers dictate how you should trade. We saw this particularly in 2017, 2018 with the crypto boom. And everyone's like, yep, crypto, let's get into that. And a lot of PIs changed their strategy. Those who hadn't previously invested in crypto started investing in it, and then they got caught out in 2018, myself included. Congratulations to the people who were able to hold through that whole time. But a lot of people just cut their losses.
Speaking of people holding on, who are the 19 hardy souls that are copying you?
So I only know one person that's copying me. I say half of them are private profiles, so I don't actually know who they are as well. One of the things that does present an opportunity for eToro is that PIs can't actually see the copier history, or sort of who's copying them past 12 months.
Yeah, you don't know that information?
No. So at the moment, you can only see with the previous 12 months of people who have joined and people who have left.
Yeah, I thought that information would be available to PIs. They'd know who'd been with them.
Yeah, no, it's one of the things I'd highly recommend they look into.
You seem to have a bunch of names in your portfolio of companies that I've seen do well for others, or perhaps others may have recently bought for their future potential.
Yeah.
However, the numbers would suggest your entry points may have been the issue. As you say, you've chosen good companies. You're confident that they're going to do well in the long run. But how do you seek to assess a good entry price?
I don't particularly focus on entry price too much. It's more around the fundamentals of the company itself. So if we look at the top 5 of my companies that I've invested in terms of invested percentage, these are not sort of ones I'm looking at in 1 month. It's 2-3 years down the track. So we have CrowdStrike Holdings, there's IIPR, Enphase, Teladoc, and ASML. One of my favorite stocks because they're at the very tippy top of the semiconductor world. So they make these, and I've got a couple of blog posts about it. They make the machines that make the machines that make the chips. And so they have a head start on everyone. It's a very niche market they've carved out for themselves. And to get to where they are at the moment, you have to spend literally years and billions of dollars to get to where they are. And no one can touch them at the moment.
Let's shift gears a bit and get back to copy trading. One question I always like to ask guests is, what changes would you like to see on eToro? And they normally have one or two little bugbears in their mind. It's different with you. There's a whole section on your website, Ideas Lab. Let's focus on the elements of that affect the copy trader in particular, because your ideas cover the whole gamut on eToro for traders and making trades and various other aspects. But this podcast is primarily aimed at copy traders. So training videos, that's something I brought up with Sam Rudnick. Well, in fact, my point was training videos to show people how to use eToro as soon as they sign up. And I think he perhaps took it a little bit more. He started talking about education and educating people about the stock market and how to invest and portfolio composition and various things like that. I basically meant, the very entry level, press this button, do this. This is what copy trading is. A really nice point you made was ask why a copier left a trader. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this was This has actually been talked about by a couple of PIs across some of the different social media platforms. It would be good to get that sort of feedback to understand why a particular copier may have left, because it might identify something that they might not be particularly strong in. So it might be that they didn't communicate well enough with them, or they didn't like the particular stocks in their portfolio.
Do you foresee some sort of multiple choice response or free-form responses? Like, when you unsubscribe from a mailing list and it says, why did you unsubscribe? And they don't want a free-form answer with you ranting about, they give you 6 options or something.
Yeah, I think even less, probably 4 generic options. So it could be like, I needed the money, or I don't like your trading strategy, or something just very generic like that. I agree with you. I don't think it should be a free text field, because then that opens it up to potentially some abuse or some threatened or whatever people want to do if you give them the opportunity to do that.
Minimum trading history for PIs. In other words, they shouldn't become PIs until they've been on the platform for a certain period of time.
Yeah, so that just limits the amount of traders that could amass a huge following on day one and be responsible for several $1 million worth of AUM. So by spacing it out for certain PI levels, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, a year, it does reduce that risk that they're sort of not just coming in, getting to that particular PI level straight away and being responsible for several $1 million worth of people's money.
Better virtual copying statistics. Yeah, the virtual account seems to work fine when you're buying stocks and things. So I believe. I haven't really used it. But I understand that if you use it to copy people, the results are all up the left.
Yeah, so they can be a bit off sometimes. I didn't really realize this until I started copying a number of traders in my virtual account. Without actually knowing about this, it could ruin a lot of people's experience in finding that perfect PI for them, because if they allocated $10,000 in virtual money to trader X and then the trades weren't opening properly, a new investor wouldn't actually realize that most of the time. So they say, oh, this person's not trading very well. Let's go find somewhere else. So it's an opportunity for eToro, because if you're highlighting the good thing that is virtual account, it needs to be free of bugs.
That's very politic of you to describe it as a good opportunity for eToro. eToro have lots of good opportunities to improve the platform. I mean, it's great. eToro is wonderful, etc. But still, there's plenty of growth ahead. Let's put it like that.
Yes.
Yeah, the risk score, that's another good example of that. There's an opportunity to explain the risk score in better terms. I did an episode on that. I think part of the problem is in the marketing of the risk score. If I was in charge, I would make smaller claims as to what the risk score is trying to do. And say, use this as a guide. It gives you some idea, but, risk is a huge subject and you have to look at these other various elements. But, it's a reasonable starting point, something like that, rather than here's the risk score. The wording is something like, this will give you an exact idea of what the PI is bringing to your portfolio.
Yeah, and because it is tied very closely to popular investors in terms of they could be removed from the PI program if they go over a certain risk level, but they don't understand, even if they haven't changed anything in their trading for the last 6 months and it's just been a volatile day, does that mean that they deserve their risk profile to go to a 7?
Yeah, I mean, it's the relationship between risk and volatility is, books have been written about that. They're not the same.
No.
But they're related.
But not the same.
Yeah.
It's I think it's a subject that they can be better explained in simple terms, or even just creating a simple risk level allocation in terms of like, okay, your portfolio went up 1% in a day. That's a risk score of 1. It went up 5% in a day. That's risk score of 4 type thing, and sort of scale it like that. Because when you sort of start trying to look at how long you've held that particular stock for and sort of what the volatility of that particular stock is, to me, it just becomes too confusing. I think they could just reinvent it in a more simpler way.
Another opportunity that awaits for eToro, which I heard somebody mentioning the other day, and like all good ideas, when you hear it, you think, of course, how come that isn't the case, is to refine the presentation of your positions. Currently, it's just one big dump of stocks, people, crypto, copy portfolio, currency pairs, all lumped in together.
Yeah.
Surely it should be possible for a user to view these by asset class division. So they can see, I can isolate how their copying of PIs is going. Like click a people tab in their portfolio, a people filter, and only see the information as to how their copies are going individually and overall. Well, Sam Rudnick, when I interviewed him, said the aim of eToro is to be a one-stop shop where people can have an account that is a mix of all these various different instruments. And I don't know how the CEO, Yoni Asia, can look at his portfolio without that thought crossing his mind. Have you seen his portfolio?
Yes.
182 positions, comprising just about every asset class possible, including dozens of PIs and portfolios. So in fact, he owns thousands of positions. Surely he would welcome a few tabs to click to see more concentrated information on an asset class basis.
Yes, I'd very much welcome that.
Did you ever copy trade earlier in your eToro career?
I did. In the first couple of months I was on eToro, I copied one of my friends who introduced me to eToro. So then I think that was probably for the first couple of months. Then I was like, I don't really need to copy him. I sort of know what I'm doing. I think it was just a gimmick that I enjoyed at the very start. I didn't actually need to copy him. So we parted ways. I said, thank you for your contribution to my portfolio, but I'm heading off to do it by myself now.
Interesting. So you didn't need to copy him, but you didn't fancy copying others?
No, because I didn't want others to dictate what I traded in. And that's just more of a personal choice, because I knew sort of some of the stocks that I wanted to trade in, some of the companies I wanted to invest in. And if I went with a particular PI, then even though I'm trusting them with my money, I don't have a say of what they invest in or where they have a particular stop loss or take profit.
You've never considered having that kind of blend of multiple assets, including copying people?
I would if I could use it on a second account and sort of blend a PI and stock market thing. But being a PI myself, I can't actually copy anyone anymore.
Right. I was thinking more back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think there may have been one or two, probably maybe one other that I looked at who was into Forex, and I wanted to learn from them in terms of looking at their trades, sort of what their entry points and exit points were, sort of see how they sort of looked at the different currency pairs. For me, it was more of a learning opportunity rather than sort of trusting them entirely to manage my portfolio.
Okay, well, let's imagine today if you were to be a copy trader, what would your approach be?
I'd look for more than one. Sort of I decide what I'm looking for in a trader. Definitely do my research, use the virtual account in certain circumstances, and don't rush into it and don't expect results from day one, because it's a marathon, as they say. It's not a sprint. So you do need to take into consideration that you might not see good results for the first week or the first month, but surely over time, as those results start compounding, it's going to get better and better over the years and months. My approach would be to go to a particular website that I like. It's called StockUpWithJoe.com.
Let me just take a note of that. Say it again.
StockUpWithJoe.com. It's a relatively new niche website that I heard is going on a podcast soon, so I'll have to keep an ear out for that. But there is a lot of information around the web on all the social media channels. There are people who give their guidance and information of what to look for in a copy. I've done that myself. So it's about getting all that information together.
Okay, so how many PIs would you have?
Depending on my funds available, I think ideally you would get pretty good exposure with about 8 to 10. You could go as high as around 20. But I think once you get above the 15 copy PI mark, that's when you're going to have a lot of double ups and sort of you're not really diversifying then.
Individual PIs doing different jobs within your portfolio, is that what you mean?
Yeah. So it's finding a good balance, in my opinion, because you don't want to invest in just all stock traders, because then you're not getting an exposure to Forex or commodities or indices, whatever it might be. So it's about finding that happy balance between them. So they should complement each other, not compete against each other.
What other PI would you say you know the best on a personal level?
There's been a few here and there over the years that I've come to know. I do remember emailing and talking with Jay back in 2017, 2018, sort of. It was actually just after I was featured as a PI, and I reached out to him, and he gave me some guidance on how to sort of handle the influx of new copiers, which is really good. So he's a great guy. He's always up for a chat, which is really nice, and I still talk to him to this day. So it's good to see how he's grown over the years and sort of the being part of his journey along the way. And then I was part of a Facebook group a while back on eToro investors, and I helped moderate that group. So that was several thousand members, I think, by the time I left. I left Facebook just because of personal reasons. But a lot of the moderators in there were PIs as well. So Andrew, our favourite friend Andrew, was one of them as well. So don't know any in my immediate vicinity that I'd say I'm on good friends with, invite them over for a barbecue. There's a couple up in Sydney that I regularly talk to as well. So there's not a significant amount of PIs in Australia, let alone Canberra. So yeah, when you do see another PI from Australia doing well, it's always good to chuck them a like on their comment or comment on their post as well, and sort of show the national support for other Australians.
Would one of those other Australian PIs that you occasionally talk to share a similar cultural background to yourself?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we look forward to having him on the show before too long.
Oh, okay.
We'll leave that out there. And speaking of the future, what does the future hold for you as a PI, and what does the future hold for StockUpWithJoe?
Probably with my website, I've been working a lot lately, so I haven't been concentrating enough on my website. So I would like to do some more posts on certain stocks that I like, sort of continue to learn from other traders as well, and sort of continue to teach those around me. So I'm always happy to have a chat and sort of trying to explain things to the best of my knowledge of how things works. Really want to continue carving out the niche corner of eToro blogging. It's just something that I just truly enjoy doing, and I like writing, as you mentioned before. I'm a better writer than I am a trader most days. So I'm happy with my current role as a PI. No doubt I'll start to looking to increase my following and slowly build up that AUM, but it's not a priority at the moment. So making sure that I'm happy with my portfolio, making sure that it's working for me as well. And I think part of the increasing my exposure to the eToro community is going to be through the various social media channels as well, making sure I'm posting, being transparent and answering questions where I can. So it's going to be a long journey, but it's going to be an exciting journey.
Sounds good. Tell us about your role in Aussie government.
It's classified.
Would you have to kill me?
Twice.
You don't want to talk about that?
No, I was just messing with you. So I mainly work with IT projects.
Okay.
Delivering sort of application and software. So there are some classified components of my work, but the majority is sort of customer client facing, making sure that the relative government department is adapting to technology and sort of keeping up with the rest of the world.
And this is a full-time job?
Yes.
And how much time does that leave you for eToro stuff?
Very little, because I like to spend time with my family as well, and I go running on occasions. I have a very hyperactive dog, which is an Australian Kelpie. Her name is Bacon because I love pork-based products, and it just seems like a fitting name. It's always fun at the dog park trying to get her to come back, and I'm having to yell out, "Bacon, Bacon, get back here, Bacon." So probably not as much time as I'd like on eToro. Particularly, I like getting in there and checking out other people's posts as well and commenting on that and learning from those and calling out anything that doesn't seem quite right in terms of someone's experience or someone's question where they might have a misunderstanding of something. I'm always willing to jump in and unwillingly give my opinion on certain topics.
All right, Joe. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been great. Best of luck with everything. I'm going to keep an eye on your performance as a PI. And yeah, I recommend the listener check out StockUpWithJoe. They'll probably notice lots of changes coming up where you refine your use of the term copy trader.
Perhaps.
Well, listen, so thank you very much. You go off and go for a run in the park with Bacon.
I will. Thanks, Gavin. Really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
So that was Joe Milazzo, the man behind StockUpWithJoe.com, a site well worth checking out. Thanks to Joe for gracing us with his presence. As a newcomer to eToro myself, it's always interesting to talk to these old hands. 5 years is a long time in eToro terms. Our next chat is with a PI, and we will focus on him as a PI, as he has had an absolutely incredible recent record. And he's also focused on building up his local community of eTorians. In fact, there are many reasons why I think he will make a great guest. That's all from me. Thanks for listening. You can continue the conversation on Discord and Facebook. Until next time we meet at Copytraders Club, I wish you many happy returns. Obviously, anything you hear in this podcast is for entertainment only, not financial advice. Do your own research. It's just generic chit-chat. We don't know your individual circumstances, etc., and so forth.